For 5 decades, Gloria Este-FAN's music has moved the world. This is Let It Loose, a Gloria Este-FAN podcast. The first fan-led show dedicated to her life, legacy, and impact. Lifelong Este-FANs Carlos, Rob, and Wes explore the songs, moments, and stories that made Gloria an icon. If her music changed your life, then welcome home.
Welcome back to another episode of Let It Loose. My name is Rob.
I'm Wes.
And I'm Carlos.
On today's episode, we're recording around Wes's birthday, so we decided to give him a little bit of an opportunity to nerd out. And the Raíces vinyl variant that came out kind of gave us the impetus to do a deep dive into vinyl collecting. And we have two very special guests named Juan and Oswaldo to talk to us all about vinyl, Gloria Este-FAN, and how much her music has meant to them.
I really don't know too much about vinyls.
I don't know ni papa when it comes to vinyl playing. I don't have a record player. I have one vinyl that I have no use playing because I don't have a thing for it. I will say that the album artwork for Raíces looks beautiful on vinyl, so I could see if you are somebody who likes to pour through liner notes like I do, a vinyl is a nice thing. But in the tiny little apartment in New York City, I'm not about to become a vinyl person, so let's see if I can be swayed.
See, I have a few vinyls, but I don't purchase them for the listening experience, if that makes any sense. It's more just because I just want this nice, larger version of a CD, right? I don't know. And there's times where I try to be sophisticated, right? I'm like, I'm going to listen to Raíces on vinyl, and I put it on the record player, and I'm just sitting there thinking, this is a lot of work. Now, after a couple songs, I have to flip it over. And like me
the vinyl
personally,
is a sexy thing. It's an attractive,
it is, but not when you're by yourself. I'm not trying to be sexy by myself.
No, I understand that. That was for me, for
Do
being
you
a collector
understand it though, or do you judge us?
No, not at all. I couldn't.
Okay.
The funny thing is, you're gonna have a hard time believing this. I couldn't tell you what record I played last. It's been quite a while since I put a vinyl on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's not your preferred
so.
way to play music.
I would say if you had to ask, like, what my preference is with audio quality, it would be CD over vinyl.
Interesting.
Interesting. I just learned something new today.
Yeah. Now the diehard audiophiles and vinyl does sound better. Well, I could go on. It can sound better. Let's put it that way. You just have to have a good system, and have the right pressing, because I think it's more about the work that's put into, each of these vinyl records are basically handmade. And if you see how that they're made, which is really cool. But you got to have a good audio master, that's pressed to those vinyls to get that good sound quality. So the masters, the guys that make all this music sound amazing, there's a vinyl master, and then there's a digital audio master. They sound different. You can't put a CD master on a vinyl record, because then it doesn't sound right, because you don't have that true analog warm, like, vinyl sound, so they call it.
Letting you use the word analog on this podcast is my birthday gift to you, by the way. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Analog?
No idea.
Analog,
I'm just sitting here smiling,
recording.
Just acting like I know what's going on.
Yeah.
In a different lifetime, if I could go back, I would be a mastering engineer for recording music. That's my thing. I could nerd out on that any day.
I'm not a big vinyl collector. I do have their very first album, Live Again, Renacer.
Yeah. That's from
The one that I have,
1976.
Okay, the one that I'm holding right now is not the original.
It's the reissue of.
This is the reissue. This album, the original cover art was with this white background, and it was so unprofessional. There was only 500 copies of that vinyl, and then they reissued it with this colorful background. And we could put this on our social media so everyone could see. So the one item that I have been dying to get my hands on was one of the 500 original Miami Sound Machine Live Again Renacer vinyls, which I just purchased on eBay where Wes used to outbid me on everything. I was so
Oh,
afraid that his ass was gonna outbid me or somehow I wasn't gonna be able to get this thing.
That's
that's
awesome.
exciting. That's
So
major.
I'm super duper excited about that.
Yeah, I do not have that. I just have the one you showed.
So I just had to show that off because that's
Yeah, no,
my
that's good.
that's gonna be my
Look at
prized
you.
possession. I know, I'm so excited.
What a perfect opportunity. We're going to have a really fun time deep diving. But Wes, before we deep dive into the actual episode, do you want to give us this week in Gloria history?
Yes, let's do
Give us a
this.
history lesson.
It is
All right.
Valentine's week, so make it sexy, Wes.
This week in Gloria history, we're going to discuss Anything for You. The album reissue of Let It Loose debuted this week on the Dutch album chart, spent 10 weeks at number 1, and a total of 53 weeks on the chart. And we'll also do a dive into the Light. And the Light debuted on multiple album charts this week, peaking at top 10 in multiple countries, including the Billboard 200 in the US, peaking at number 5 and spending 68 weeks on the chart. As well as in Australia, it peaked at number 9, the Netherlands number 2, Switzerland number 6, and in the UK number 2.
Thank you, Wes, for that very romantic This Week in Gloria history on this Valentine's week.
I love history lessons with
I
Wes.
do too.
And now we're excited to shift the conversation to a part of music fandom that's all about connection, storytelling, and preserving the experience of listening. Vinyl collecting. For many music lovers, vinyl is about more than sound quality. It's the artwork, the memories tied to each record, and the experience of hearing an album exactly as it was meant to be played, all of which gives certain artists a lasting place in our lives. And anyone who knows our very own Wes knows that he himself is a big vinyl collector. So this conversation is especially close to home for our team. Today, we're joined by two passionate vinyl collectors whose shelves span a wide range of artists and genres, and who also share an appreciation for the music of Gloria Estefan and the role her records play in their collections. Juan and Oswaldo, welcome. We're so glad you're here with us today. How are you guys doing?
Guys.
Thanks for being here.
Woo-hoo!
Yes, thank you. I'm so
Thank you
psyched
for
that
inviting me.
I'm so psyched to
Thanks.
have you guys here.
Thanks for the invite because I have to say that I'm a little bit intimidated because this is Gloria's fandom territory, and I just want to be, to accomplish your expectations. So thanks for the invite.
Rob and I are very intimidated. We are very intimidated by you guys. So we might end up taking a back seat and just watch you guys geek out a little, talking about vinyls and records. But it's exciting. I know how excited Wes gets when talking about vinyl. And then I've been following you guys. Wes, I know that you've been following as well. Rob, I have no idea what you do with your Instagram, who you're following, but Wes and I, we've been following you guys, and we know how passionate you guys are. So I love to see that, and I always look forward to your posts.
Thank you.
So before we dive into vinyls and learning all about your collector life, we want to talk about your sort of Gloria beginnings, right? When did Gloria's music enter your life, and what made you a fan, and so on? So Juan, why don't we start with you?
I can't remember a time where I didn't know Gloria. I think my dad's side of the family is very musical. My mom is too, but my dad's side mainly. And music was always around in the house. And I don't remember a time before Gloria, if that makes sense. But for me, she was always a Latin artist that recorded in English. I knew her Spanish music more than the English one. The English one came later for me. And it's the opposite. She's kind of an English artist that started recording in Spanish. But for me, it's the opposite. Just my perception growing up. The album of Mi Tierra and Abriendo Puertas, especially Abriendo Puertas, it always reminded me of home because, for example, in Christmas, that's the album that was playing on loop. So the memories that I have with her music, especially in Spanish, are very family oriented.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the musical, the On Your Feet musical. That was when I heard the songs, I'm like, I've heard these, but I didn't associate them necessarily with Gloria because I don't know, they just didn't click. For me, Gloria is Mi Tierra, Abriendo Puertas, like that Spanish music that I grew up with. Going back to the question, I can't remember a time before Gloria in my life. She's always been there musically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always always said the same thing. I don't remember my life without her in it. And
Yeah.
I've said even on this show that to me, her music is my home. It sounds like home.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I completely co-sign so much of what you're saying. Oswaldo, what about you?
It's pretty much the same. But the difference is that I always knew that she was a huge artist, probably one of the blueprints in Latin music, especially because ever since I was a kid, I didn't grow up in a family where music was blasting all the time, all the day on the radio. But I was always surrounded because I grew up in Venezuela. There was all these soap operas and telenovelas, and there was always theme songs that became really popular. And I remember really clearly where the Spanish version for Heaven's What I Feel was a theme song for a popular soap opera during the 90s. And Gloria Estefan was always on the radio, is still on the radio after all these years, because for all the Latin community, I grew up in Venezuela, but for the last 11 years, I've been living in Santiago, in Chile. She's always present. She's one of those artists that has so many songs and so many hits, but not necessarily you know the name of the artist. But once you get to listen, you're like, okay, this is Gloria Estefan. She's always been huge, and at least in Latin America, it's pretty much clear how important she is. So I've always knew that she was a big part of this music industry as we know it till this day. But I've never bought or listened properly any of her works until later on. Maybe because of Wes. Wes was the one that knocked on my door and told me like, "Oh, you collect records, but you have any Gloria related?" It feels like a Jehovah Witness situation. Like he was offering me something, you know?
Wow.
In the best way possible. In the best way
That is
possible.
awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
He's very influencing.
He has created a cult, by the way.
Look at you being an
Wow.
influencer, Wes.
And you know, that's how it started for me with Instagram. I mean, I've always been a collector, but my Instagram account started back when COVID was going on and nobody knew what to do. And I would come across some Madonna and Michael Jackson accounts on Instagram with people showing off their collection. I was like, oh wow, this is a thing. You know, I didn't think people made Instagram accounts, you know, just showing off their stuff, you know. And it wasn't for me to like show off, oh, I have all of this stuff. That's not what it was about. It was more for me to attract younger guys, younger generations to become more drawn into her music. Took two great guys that here they are.
Juan mentioned abriendo puertas being a big thing for him. So Osvaldo, Wes knocks on your door. He gives you the Book of Gloria. And what have been some of your favorite releases since discovering her music?
Well, Wes couldn't understand why I couldn't have Gloria items, because for him it was really hard to understand that finding Gloria Estefan CDs at that time. We're talking about I created collecting albums, which is my vinyl account, my music account back in 2019. So way before COVID happened, and then I probably during 2020, Wes and I started following back each other. And when he was offering me the world of Gloria, I was like, I don't have anything Gloria related. Not because I don't like her, but Gloria for me in the music industry, it's the perfect word to describe an icon. She has done so much for every single Latin artist that you see out there right now. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should start collecting something. And I remember that one of the first items, and maybe Wes remember this because I texted him years ago, there was this flea market that works over Sundays and weekends and holidays. And I went to this flea market. I usually buy pop records. That's basically what I buy, although I do collect some other genres, but I collect so many artists. So I ran into this Higher Not Giving You Up vinyl single. And when I saw the cover, I was like, okay, so this reminds me of the DVD cover, I believe that from the Evolution tour. And I'd never listened to anything of Gloria before, but I'm a sucker for remixes, especially from the 90s, disco remixes, house remixes. And I saw a bunch of remixes and I decided to take that home. And up to this day, and Wes can verify that, every now and then, at least 3 or 4 times a month, I spin that vinyl single. It gives me life. I can't explain what that 12-inch remix for Not Giving You Up moves me. It is something beyond what I can express. It is that great and that fun. And when Wes saw that, he was like, okay, so this is the perfect time to introduce you to this. And I started to see videography and interviews and all this info that it's really hard to miss when you get to meet a really heartful fan, which is the case of Wes and even Rob or Carlos, because you get to see how music affects emotionally and moves you deeply. And probably that's how I started because of Wes. And I started remember that there's a bunch of titles that Gloria has released through the years. And I think that it's something really contagious because after that, a couple of months later, one of my biggest single favorites of Gloria is Oye. For some reason, I believe that's the best way to resume a little bit what it means to be doing Latin music in the 90s. And when I ran into that single in a record shop near my apartment, I was like, I cried. A tear dropped down because that reminds me of such a better time growing up. Gloria conquered the 90s because I remember listening to Gloria every single day of my life, everywhere. If you go to the mall, if you, I don't know, you're going into the bus to school. And I think that's how I started. And I have a couple of records, but then everything took a shift when I bought Mi Tierra, which was my first studio album that I bought from Gloria for pretty obvious reasons. I've been away from home for 11 years for obvious reasons. And when you get to listen a 90s album completely in Spanish from a female singer, you get to see how beautiful and deep Gloria gets with the lyrics. And that's when I said, you know what? I'm a fan, definitely. And well, Wes, the Wes Cyclopedia helps me a lot to understand what's going on. And I don't know, I feel like I have the obligation to make it to Viña del Mar Festival and actually see her live because that's once in a lifetime opportunity. And I think I'm going to make it, hopefully. But that's how I started.
I love what you wrote on one of your posts. You have the Higher I'm Not Giving You Up single, that vinyl. And on that post, you wrote the legacy behind Gloria Estefan. When I look back on all the great music released over the 90s, I feel like I grew up during the best decade in music history. And that pretty much sums up that decade because it really was a great time. You wrote, Oye is probably one of the greatest songs released by a Latin artist during the 20th century. That's big. That's huge.
Most people forget what really living legends made for the music industry just because they're not touring anymore. Because now the only way to succeed and to actually earn some living from your music is to touring, which is something that Gloria hasn't done in a while because she decided not to do it. But if she was active touring the world, everybody would remember every single day how important Gloria Estefan is for the industry. And I'm not neglecting all the people that came before her, like Celia Cruz, for example, which is another blueprint for the industry. But I believe that if it wasn't for Gloria Estefan and her husband, which is an incredible producer, most of the music or Latin music as we know it wouldn't exist. And for some reason,
preach.
For some reason, the last couple of years, I've been collecting records that after when I read the credits, I'm like, oh my gosh, this was produced under Este-FAN management or Este-FAN producing. And it's quite iconic, which is something, a word that it's been used very loosely nowadays, but Gloria Estefan and what she has done with her career throughout the years, it's quite iconic. Not everybody can do that. Every time we get the chance, we should acknowledge that.
I love that.
I remember seeing, I think it was late last year, there was a list of the 50 top.
I know where you're going with this. I know where you're going. Yeah.
And I remember reading the list and I remember being so upset that she was number 2.
Yes.
And Shakira,
you're not the only one.
And she was not number 1 because I feel like everyone on that list, like modern artists, are on that list because of Gloria Estefan. She opened the door for so many. She didn't open the door. She knocked down the door for so many people to be able to do what they're doing today. I don't think there's no way the Latin music industry would be what it is without her.
I'm with Carlos on that, how it kind of fired me up too. But then I looked at it from another perspective as like Shakira was, when she started out, she became famous in the Latin world, before she crossed over into the English world. And was very well known in the Latin world. Whereas Gloria, a lot of people were introduced to her in the English market,
First.
So I took it as, okay, maybe that's why they're giving her the nod. Shakira, she made her mark in the Spanish and the Latin market before crossing over into the English market. So that's how I kind of looked at it, if that makes sense. But I agree.
think it's also 100%. A streaming thing. I think streaming numbers
it's a whole different
took into play a lot with that. So
but Shakira is where she is because of Gloria.
Absolutely, she is.
Shakira
and I think
is
Shakira
amazing.
Would also agree with you.
Yes, I think Shakira is great.
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong, I love Shakira, but she would not be where she is without Gloria. And the same goes with Thalia. The massive success that Thalia had in the 90s and early 2000s was because of the Este-FAN.
And novelas.
I wouldn't have known.
I know, but her music.
But those songs were
her
produced
music,
by him.
They're produced by Emilio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't know those artists without them. So I'll say that for sure.
So Juan, you've said that Mi Tierra is amazing from the artwork to the music and that it takes you back to another era. Can you tell us what that time and place looks like for you personally?
Well, I think looking at that album, it doesn't like the artwork especially, it doesn't look like it was done in the 90s. It really looks like from the 50s or 60s. Like it doesn't feel like it's trying to imitate, just the artwork. And the music itself is the same line. It's just she wanted to really take you back to when she was born, where she grew up. And I really believe it. It doesn't feel like it's kind of gimmicky. Sometimes nowadays some artists do this and it kind of feels a little gimmicky, like it's a one and done. But that album, it really, like the music and the lyrics, I love lyrics. Music, like beats are fine and rhythms and everything, but I love lyrics. Lyrics are what connect me to music. So all those songs have such a deep meaning in the lyrics that we don't really get nowadays in music as a whole. So that's why Mi Tierra, from the artwork to the music, is just like, and I love old boleros. I love, those romantic boleros that maybe our grandparents listened to. I still listen to those. I love that kind of music.
Well, I know that two standout songs for you on that album are Con los años que me quedan and Volverás, which Volverás to me is one of the most beautiful songs.
And it's funny because I didn't hear it from her first. I heard it from Alejandro Fernandez. It's on his album. One of the albums that Emilio produced, the one where he recorded
Me estoy enamorando.
That one.
Yeah.
So I love that song. And when I look at the credits, thanks to like physical media, I'm like, this is Gloria wrote this. And then going back to the album, of course, it's her song.
Yeah. I can't wait to do a deep dive in that album. It's a special one. If you hear interviews, Epic and Sony came back at them and said, no way, why are we going to do this? We want another pop album to keep things going after Into the Light. We don't want you to do this. But they fought hard with Tommy Mottola, and she obviously ended up winning. But to think, and on VH1 in the United States, there was nobody's music video, an entire song in Spanish, especially with that genre. And
that look too, that like retro look, it was unheard of.
That music video was on rotation all the time, along with in the early 90s with Michael Bolton and Madonna and Mariah Carey. And then there would be Mi Tierra in Spanish. You didn't see that. I remember fondly, I wanted to buy the Mi Tierra album when it came out because I love Gloria. I didn't really care what she was saying. For me, it's the music. It's kind of the opposite of what you were just saying. Obviously, I don't understand the lyrics more now than I did then. But when I was 10 years old, I wanted it, and I didn't care what she was saying. And my dad was like, why would you want to buy this? You don't know what she's saying. I was like, I don't really care. And now, just a few years ago, K-pop is a big thing, and nobody knows what they're saying either, but they love the music.
No, just I wanted to say something where Wes was referring that he didn't understand Spanish on Gloria's music, but probably because there are some performers who actually connects with people. We talk about music videos from the 20th century or comparing them to K-pop music nowadays. There's just certain artists that just connect with you, and that's what happens with Gloria, I believe.
How did vinyl collecting begin for you? Oswaldo, you want to start?
My first ever music item was a cassette, a mixtape from a soap opera, a Colombian soap opera. But my first ever item, I got it back in 1995. When it comes to vinyl, I think I refused to the idea of getting vinyl because it was, at least over here, really expensive. But when I moved to Chile 11 years ago, I insisted on collecting all the CDs. But thanks to a collector that followed my YouTube channel, he lives in Hawaii. Haley, probably he's gonna hear this eventually. He's a big friend of mine right now, and he sent me a box. Yeah. And when I got it here at home, I had this 12-inch maxi single of My All by Mariah Carey. And I didn't listen to Mariah Carey at the time. I was like, what's this? Should I spin this and see what happens? And that's where my love for house music and dance music started, because of the single that David Morales did for Mariah. And then one thing led to another, and I now have over 400 vinyl records. I used to own more, but I sold a couple of copies because I live in an apartment. It's not a small apartment, but still, I'm trying to keep what I'm actually listening. And I didn't stop after that. For me, it's just a way to appreciate art in a bigger scale, because I think probably now more than ever, people are really understanding and respecting what it means to be a collector. This is a piece of art that you own. Now more than ever, where there's so many independent artists buying music, the vinyl, the CD, or whatever you want to support your artist, it's really important. It's what it actually helps for this artist to tour the world, to maybe go to a city near you. So it's been 6 years since my first vinyl arrived in my hands, but vinyl gives you an experience to actually go back in time to simpler times. And I'm one of those people that I have my vinyl record and I sit in front of the turntable and I let that baby spin for both sides. And it helps me to understand the intention behind the music. So that's probably why a Gloria record is way more significant if I spin it on a turntable than streaming it on Apple Music or Spotify.
I love that.
You know, if it's funny that you say that. I read or heard in an interview with Phil Collins not all that long ago about vinyl. He said what it used to be like. You put a lot of thought into the track listings and which tracks came after one. He said now in today's generation with the streaming world, it doesn't matter. You can just flip through whatever. But he said when you would put a vinyl on, you listened to it from start to finish.
Yeah, because I believe there's like a motive when artists create the set list. It's not an accident, it's not random. There's an intention to navigate through this world that your artist creates when it's printing music like that on vinyl. And I believe once you get into this world, you're starting to even noting or listening to instruments that are not available on any other format. And that's what keeps me going, to keep on buying and to keep on supporting, because yes, it's going to help the artist with their art, but it's also helping me to actually be more connected to life, basically, because we're living in apocalyptic times now. So holding to a piece of plastic for most people, when I spin that piece of plastic, it turns into a whole different vibe, and I'm entering into this world when I know that the finish line is gonna leave like a soothing feeling that life will be better.
So Juan, if someone flipped through your shelves,
yeah,
what would they learn about you?
That I have a weird musical taste. I have so many different things. But I've always been like that. Since I was a kid, I loved buying CDs, and sometimes I would buy a CD just for the artwork for one song. What would people know about me? That I don't know, that I like Spanish music more than English. I prefer Spanish music more. That lyrics are important to me, much more than beats, and maybe that I have a very peculiar taste in music. I don't have a specific genre that I collect or that I listen to. It's a wide range. I have old albums, Celia Cruz albums, salsa albums, Gloria. I have some reggaeton. The people that know me wouldn't necessarily associate with me.
Juan, it's so interesting you say that because I also tend to agree with you about preferring Spanish music because my only exposure to vinyl records at all was after Mi Tierra came out. My grandfather was listening to it with me, and he was like, he took me to the room where he had all his records. He goes, if you like Mi Tierra, you should hear why this album exists and where it comes from. And he took out all of his old Cuban records, and we would spin them for me. And we listened to so many of those old bolero style, Trio Matamoros, all those things that he grew up listening to that he was able to bring with him from Cuba, because of Mi Tierra. So yeah, I also have a very special connection to those types of songs.
Yeah, my dad, he when he was younger, he actually recorded music. He was in his church, he recorded a few albums. So I have those albums too. And I remember growing up, he would always be singing boleros like that because that's what he grew up with. He didn't necessarily grow up with what was popular at the time because they were a little more conservative. So I remember listening to those boleros and falling in love with those lyrics. You don't get lyrics like that nowadays. Like that romance, that passion for what they're singing. And I think that's one of the things that Gloria does so well is that interpretation of those lyrics because it's just there's something about Mi Tierra that you feel what it like it's beautiful, but it's it's an angustia, it's an anguish what she's saying, what wanting to reconnect with that and that longing of being able to go back to her country, her land. So that's why music for me, I gravitate towards the lyrics because there's such a special meaning behind them, whoever writes them. It's a story, it's a poem, and I love songs like that that just that say this is what I'm thinking, this is my point of view, and I want to share it with you. And Gloria does both, not only the writing but the interpreting, and that's I think that's why she's one of the best.
The song Mi Tierra could have easily been Cuba, 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 talk about, being Cuban, but it's open. She doesn't mention Cuba specifically. And for so many different...
That's what Oswaldo said.
Yeah. Like for so many different groups of immigrants in the diaspora, like they can relate to that song, like Oswaldo from Venezuela, having been through what his country's been through, and Cubans and anybody who's not where they come from anymore, and still carries that within them. That's why that song was a hit and continues to resonate with so many people. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah. And another thing about that Wes was saying that she, the label didn't want her to do it. If you look at her performances, especially of Mi Tierra, I love her expression of pride. That she's like, I did this. They told me not to. I did it, and it was a hit. Like I was able to do it. I was watching that the other day, and she looks like she's so proud of what she's presenting.
I just got goosebumps with what you just said because it's so true.
Yeah, it must have been such a great feeling to insist on a project that you have total faith on, that everyone is telling you not to do,
and that it paid off.
And that it paid off.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
That must be like the best feeling.
I mean, if you look at the sales of the Mi Tierra album, I can't wait to do a deep dive into that one for an episode, guys. Like in countries like the UK, would you ever imagine that album being in the top, like doing as well as it did in the UK and Australia? Like, I don't live there, but you wouldn't think that Spanish music at that time would be like, get that much attention. But she did it.
That's definitely a universal album.
Yeah.
We're ready for some rapid fire questions. Are you guys ready?
So the rapid fire questions are coming from me because I am a vinyl idiot. I don't know anything about vinyl. I'm learning today. So I want to know from you a little bit more about your collection, but rapidito, okay? Juan, will start with you, and then Oswaldo can respond, and then like that, okay? Favorite vinyl you own, without thinking too hard?
Probably the Benson Boone Fireworks on rollerblades, because it has like a splatter effect on it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I would choose Let Go by Avril Lavigne because that's my favorite album of all times.
Oh, it's a great album.
I
Okay.
chose favorite because of how it looks, not music-wise.
That's right. That's great.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so
you know what? For somebody who said, because one said that he's more interested in lyrics than in looks, now he's third first.
No,
the
I
prettiest
said
vinyl
it's
he
a favorite
owns.
because we were talking about vinyl, like the look of it.
okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what is the rarest record in your collection?
Yeah, I can go first. I didn't know that this was a thing. Back in 2004, Janet Jackson released Damita Joe, this controversial period of time of hers because of the Super Bowl. And 2 years ago, I was randomly scrolling on the flea market and I found a test pressing of this album, but only the Japanese bonus tracks. That's something rare. I never saw before a special pressing for only Japanese bonus tracks, and that's not available in the official vinyl. So that would be my rarest item, and I paid like $20.
Oh, nice. That's
Wow.
even better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's the Wicked, the record store day pressing, because it sold out everywhere, and I won a giveaway for it. The record store I go to, they only had 2 copies, and people were asking for it. So instead of selling it, they did a raffle. You would buy tickets for it. They did a raffle, and then the proceeds would go to one of their employees that was battling cancer. So I bought 2 tickets, and they had 2 copies, and I got one of them. And now it's like selling for like $300-400.
Oh, wow.
So I paid
Wow.
$20 for it too.
You know, that's the kind of fun thing about vinyl is like the hunt and the chase of it. So with that in mind, what is your best bargain that you've ever scored?
Oh, wow.
I know that off the top of my head. It was Thalia's mixtape. I got it from Urban Outfitters for $2.89.
Oh,
It was incredible.
nice.
Oh wow, the greatest bargain would be for me. Maybe there's not a lot of people who remembers this album, but back in 2013, Cher released Closer to the Truth, and a couple of years ago, before this album was repressed, it was on Discogs. Discogs is this platform where you can organize your music collection and trade music, and that was probably around $400, and I bought it here in Santiago, sealed for $15.
Oh, wow.
So that was a bargain.
That is definitely a bargain.
We talked about bargains. What's a record that you overpaid for, but you don't regret how much you paid?
The thing is that sometimes you think that something's out of stock, so you like freak out and trying to find and go and find on eBay something that was maybe worth $30. I might have paid 50 or 60 for, and then 2 weeks later it was restocked at 30. So that happens. You kind of have to be kind of do some research before you get into those resells.
It depends a little bit because pretty recently, just yesterday, last night, I was scrolling. That's the worst thing that a collector can do because we do that all the time. We're always investigating and scrolling where to get the best prices and the best items. And I saw there's this Madonna album called Hard Candy, which is pretty popular at the time, but it was pressed only once in vinyl. And I saw that last night that they have it here in Santiago for $220 sealed. And what I've learned in my experience as a collector is that nothing is that limited, nothing is that exclusive, especially now that collecting vinyl or music in general is trending again. On her website, Madonna's, this is a compilation album. The last release she put out was Finally Enough Love, this box set of 50 Pop Songs #1, and I bought it for $190, I remember. And then that same year, I had the chance to see her on the Celebration tour on this quick trip to Paris. And I was like, I felt so good buying this box set when I was in Santiago online. I was like, I felt special. And once I get into a record shop in Paris, they were everywhere. And I was like, you know what? I just couldn't wait.
So I have a question about your wish list, like Holy Grail vinyl that you still can't believe you don't own. Oswaldo, would Hard Candy be that for you? Or is there something even more elusive that you don't have yet?
Well, if any record producer, any CEO of Sony Music or Epic Records or whatever the company is would make this possible, I have 3 biggest ISOs in search of. which would be the first one would be Gloria on vinyl. I mean, it's been already decades since the last time they pressed on vinyl.
You're not
and
getting
would
that
be
one before
amazing.
me, though. You're not getting that one before me. I will
And
fight
it's-
you. I will go to Chile.
And it's funny because we're talking about this album and on the podcast, which is now airing season 3. I interviewed pretty recently Disco Borgen, which is called, he's a collector from Spain,
I know
and he
who
told me that
is, yeah.
his first ever vinyl item was Gloria, the album. And I believe that if that artwork cover of the album is Gloria behind a vinyl, what the hell? That's not pressed yet. I mean, I love how Sony has been pressing everything again, which is good. That's how I got Into the Light, Destiny, Mi Tierra, which is a pretty regular vinyl that probably will be repressed until the end of time because that's how iconic that album is. But that would be my first. The second one definitely has to be Damita Joe, to anybody listening to this that hasn't listened to that album because of the backlash after the Super Bowl halftime show. They have to revisit that album. Damita Joe from 2004 is a masterpiece. And the third one, for me, there was this huge pop star from Mexico called Faye. And Faye, for the first 3 or 4 albums released, incredible pop music. She's like an icon from the 90s because whatever she released over the 3 albums of her career was incredibly successful. And that would be really good to own on vinyl, especially because that was the first album I ever listened, or the first cassette CD, anything music related, was her second studio album released in 96.
Wow, 3 very different albums. Juan, what are yours? Your wish list?
I have one.
Okay.
And it's Back to Basics by Christina Aguilera.
Oh.
So that was
okay.
released a few years ago. Urban Outfitters has a beautiful red color pressing that's in the maybe 400s or 500 range, maybe 300, 500 range. I won't pay that. I'll wait. This year will be the 20th anniversary, so we might get something, hopefully, maybe not. But in terms of what hasn't been pressed, my number one is, well, I have three. Is Christina Aguilera's Mi Reflejo. That album is one of my favorites. That should be on vinyl. Luis Miguel's Amarte es un placer. That's an album I love.
Nice.
And I would say Gloria's Alma Caribeña is there.
Oh my God.
I would love that on
We
vinyl.
need that.
That artwork would
Put
be
that out
stunning.
in the universe.
Yes.
We need that vinyl.
I mean,
but
since we're in a Gloria Estefan fandom right now,
Mm-hmm.
what can you guys tell us about upcoming pressings? I mean, is this going to
Good
happen?
question.
That's a good
Can
question.
we be hopeful that this is going to happen? How did you guys see it according to your connections and all your talks that you have with different people in this world?
I was just about to say, we're definitely going to plant this seed. We'll discuss this with her and get you guys hopefully a Gloria blue vinyl. Hopefully that'll happen.
Alma Caribeña.
Yeah,
Can we get that too?
That would be great. But I think everybody, if anybody would choose an album to be on vinyl, a reissue, Gloria's up there. Gloria, and I hear Unwrapped a lot would be great on vinyl, which I would take everything.
Wow.
But as we all know, it's Sony Music is who's in control of what is repressed. And I actually spoke with a guy. Destiny was very sought after, as you know, and I have one of the original copies from Europe that during that time it wasn't everybody was buying CDs, so all of the LP press, the vinyl pressings, majority of them were destroyed, because they weren't sold because everybody was buying the CD. And now it's one of the most sought after pressings there are out there. I've seen it go for $1,800 on eBay once.
That's going to be your homework for this year. We're going to try to work on
We'll work
Gloria,
on that from
Alma
Gloria.
Caribeña, Unwrapped. That's your homework.
But Sony, I spoke with a person from Music on Vinyl about the Destiny album, and he said that Sony would only allow them 1,000 pressings because he gave me a little bit of insight. There might be some future projects in place for those albums. That's why they only allowed them to press such a limited number. But prior to Destiny and Primitive Love, there were like 2,000 pressings, I think, but the last two albums is only 1,000. So he said that could be because of this. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, let's see what happens.
See what
That's nice.
happens. And
So,
Gloria hasn't been
guys,
announced yet, so maybe Sony's gonna do their own thing.
Well, that was our rapid fire, everybody. You know, a little less rapid, but but we got there.
I do have one last question for you guys, and we'll start with Juan. If Gloria could see your collection today, what would you want her to understand about how her music has impacted your life?
I want her to know what a positive influence she's been for me. The Abriendo Puertas album is, I'll go to that one because that I associate that with family. I hear that album and I go back to being a kid around a Christmas tree with my family, eating what we eat in Puerto Rico, arroz con gandules, tostones, mofongo, all of that. And the sense of family that, because of so many reasons, the closeness might not be there today, but the memories will always be there, and hopefully more closeness in the future. But that music reminds me of just no worries and just being loved and being close, being with family. And that is like, it's like a little time machine for me. So much of her music has that connection for me, and I hope that she knows that beyond the album sales, beyond the awards, beyond the everything, the fame, the effect of her music is profound for me. And I know that I'm not alone in this. And yeah, to know that that influence is there and it's positive, and it's just beautiful for me, at least.
Dude, you have me teary-eyed over here.
That was a mic drop moment. That was
Sorry.
Like our editor is sending us messages that she's crying right now.
Hi.
Oh, wow.
That was beautifully said. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that one. Oswaldo, not to put any pressure on you. You don't have to make us cry. It's okay.
Make us cry.
I don't know what's the follow after this? Oh my God. Well, that was beautiful.
Yes, it was.
She's not only part of the music industry, but she's also part of our lives, of our houses, of our routines. Because in most Latin households, Latin homes, you're going to run into a Gloria album. And when you get to actually have these type of artists that are so timeless, that travel with you through the years, when you're a kid, when you're a teenager, when you're an adult, when you're crying your ass out while listening to Mi Tierra because we're living in difficult times, and that's your refuge. I believe that's the thing that Gloria needs to know, not only about me and my collection, if she ever, I see her in my house going through my records and asking for explanations why I do not have her entire catalog, my answer would be, she's always with us. Wherever we go, or if you're going to the club, you're going to listen to Oye, because that's part of the things that we listen here. If you're feeling a little heartache, you're going to have a refuge on at least one album of Gloria. And that's what I've learned throughout the years, that she's not only this huge artist, this huge blueprint, but it's also part of, Juan said, my family, but also she will never go away. I believe that Gloria taught us to be proud of being Latinos, which is something that in the 20th century, nobody knew how to do that. She's always been so present. I've never felt like there's a gap between her career and her catalog, because it's timeless. And just a handful of artists can be timeless and travel with you through time. I feel that more people are going to actually understand the meaning of Gloria Estefan's music and impact. We see it every day. And I feel that what Wes did, what the Let It Loose podcast are doing, is just to give you a hand, because it's intimidating when you run into such a incredible artist like Gloria Estefan, because you just don't know how to start. What album should I listen first? Thanks to her, basically, and Celia Cruz, we're living in a world where Latin artists have number ones. When nobody could do that, Gloria did it first in such an elegant, beautiful way. So she will travel with us until the end of time.
You both are taking me to church today.
I have to interrupt. I've been sitting here crying like an idiot.
This is awesome.
This has been such a hard week in the world, and to hear you guys talk about this, like, thank you for being here and for talking about her, because I'm not okay, guys. I'm not okay. Oh my God.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
It really does mean a lot because, you know, as us as super fans, you know, we co-sign on everything that you say, you know, but we're super fans. She could sing or perform the grocery list and we'll be like, oh my God, yes. Yep. But to hear, you know, a couple of level-headed guys share, you know, these same thoughts that we have, that we already know, but to hear you guys say this, and I really hope that your message just gets out there to people that may not be familiar, as familiar with her work. So I truly appreciate everything that you guys said. So if I, as a fan, we as fans, you know, appreciate everything that you're saying, imagine Gloria listening to this. That has to mean so much to her.
But there are also probably so many people listening who have been asked that question by family members. Why Gloria? Why are you such a fan? Why are you this? Why are you that? And it's difficult for so many of us to put it into words. What she means, what her legacy means, what her songs mean. But both of you today have so beautifully and so eloquently like summed it up in such a fantastic way. I'm trying to be serious, damn it.
You fucked us up. That's what you did. Both of you guys.
It was beautiful, and a lot of people are going to resonate with your message, and we're really grateful for your honesty and your openness.
Absolutely.
Today.
These guys came to me with the idea. I actually didn't even come up with the idea of this episode, believe it or not. And they mentioned, you know, do you think you could come up with 2 guests that we could bring on to talk? And both of you immediately popped into my mind. And I'm so glad that you came through and you agreed to come on. And it's been awesome.
Who knew we were going to cry over vinyl?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think that you guys deserve more credit, to give yourself more credit, because I personally don't usually collab with anybody. But when Wes first pitched this idea for me, without even talk to me too much about this, I already said yes, because it's really cool when you run into people that truly appreciate music for what it is. And it's way easier you don't necessarily have to be the biggest fan to understand and respect what some artists have done for the community, and to see how genuine the Let It Loose podcast and the people who has had the chance to meet Gloria, everything seems so genuine. The way Carlos was dancing with Gloria, you get to see how people recognizes each other in this Gloria community, and to see how proud you are to be part of this. It's really inspiring, and I don't say that loosely. At the end of this episode, we're gonna feeling way much better than when we first started recording this. And probably, for me, probably that's the best takeaway of music. Music is so powerful, but when you get to meet nice people that has so many memories attached to music, or in this case to Gloria, it's really inspiring and mind-blowing. So to anybody listening to this after this hour, it's magical. You end up feeling and living this episode feeling way better about life, and that's good too.
Well, Oswaldo has complimented us, so Juan, it's your turn.
Yes, I actually wanted to. It's my turn. Yeah, I wanted to echo what he said, because as a vinyl community on Instagram, it's really cool to connect with people from different places. I've talked to Oswaldo in Chile. I have a friend from Germany that I talk to almost every day. And with Wes, I've had that same experience, that it's so nice to see someone like him, that's a white boy, it's a Gloria, because like I said, Gloria to me is a Spanish artist that sings English, and seeing you, that you know her whole catalog, you know songs that I didn't even know in Spanish, like the collection that you have, and and the items that you've put together throughout the years, that's so impressive. And the way you talk about it, the passion that you have talking about it gets me more into it. Like, I love Gloria, but I think listening to you and what you've shared with me, and that is a connection that is so nice to have, because I love music, but I don't get to talk about music with everyone. Like, all my friends, my family, they don't always get it. But the community on Instagram that that we follow and follows us, it's nice to see that. And I think Wes is a big part of that, because not only because it's Gloria, but because of the passion that you have. It's something that is so, like, it inspires me to get more into music and to get more of Gloria's records on vinyl. And Carlos, we've talked, like, I laugh every time I talk to you. And
Me?
it's nice to see.
Not me.
Yes.
Carlos the dancer, because
Carlos the
that's how
dancer.
that's gonna stick in my head.
Yeah,
You're
that's
the
how I
dancer
knew
now.
him too. But when Wes talked to me about this, I don't do things like this. I'm super shy. I'm super, like, introverted, but I said yes because I had heard this, and I love this dynamic that you guys have going on. And talking about Glory and sharing all of this was a no-brainer for me. So I'm super grateful that you guys thought of me and invited me. And I want to close up with something that I remember Oswaldo said last year, the year before, in one of his stories. He was talking about the Billboard, how artists get number ones nowadays. There's a lot of things that artists can do nowadays to get there. So many strategies that they have to get those number one albums and everything nowadays. I think the fact that Gloria has achieved what she has achieved without those gimmicks nowadays, without the million vinyl variants, without the CDs, without those strategies that they do nowadays, is such a testament to what her music means, or what has meant throughout the years. And I think we should celebrate the fact that she's gotten all those achievements in sales without these gimmicks that we know nowadays is impressive. And I we didn't talk about Raíces, but Raíces for me was just listening to that first song was such a throwback to Mi Tierra. And the lyrics, when she says, decir te quiero, decir te amo, nunca pierdas la oportunidad. Lyrics like that are so simple. They sound so simple, but they're so profound, that she records in an album in 2025. That's a gift. And that album is just a gift.
Oh, you got us. You got all of us on this Zoom.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah, that it, we've been celebrating this album since it came out, but it is a gift. That's beautifully said.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being on this show. It really feels like we went to church, went to therapy,
I need therapy after
I
this.
know. We're on the other side now altogether, and we needed it. And I hope that the people listening to this also feel what we feel listening to your beautiful stories. Where can people find you if they want to follow you on Instagram? Where can people find both of you?
Okay, well, I'm on Instagram at collecting albums for the last 6 years, and I also have a podcast in Spanish called Gíralo y que suene.
My account is inrecord_time. But yeah, I'm there. I'm just sharing things that I love. Not always what's popular, but just music that moves me and that I've always connected with, and connecting with people like Oswaldo, like Wes, and so many people has been the joy that I keep going back.
Yep, I agree. When I created it, I've connected with so many people and a lot of younger generations from all over the world that have reached out. And that was my goal for this, was like, I have all this stuff that I don't really do a whole lot with. I want to put it out there for the people that can see it, and maybe hopefully attract some people to liking her and maybe collecting her stuff. And it's fun to connect with all of those people. And you two are up there on the top of the list of my list. So thank you for joining us. And I really
It's worked,
appreciate it.
Wes.
Yeah.
You definitely influenced me.
And
In a
that's
very
what I
positive
hope to
way,
do.
so.
That was the goal of this. And to hear you all say that means a lot.
Thank you both again so much. I hope you'll come back because this was fantastic. We really appreciate
we could
your
talk
time.
Anytime.
Yes.
What a very special episode with our two guests, Juan and Oswaldo. You know, aside from the fact that we all really needed that, what a perfect time for this episode to come out, because the episode is called Falling in Love with Vinyl. And I think we've fallen in love with Juan and Oswaldo after this because they spoke so beautifully on behalf of all of the fans, sending Gloria what felt like a Valentine's note, like all of this love going her way. I don't know if she's going to listen to this or not, but I hope she sort of by osmosis feels all of the love that we're pouring into this show and that our two guests gave her as well. So if you like this episode, don't forget to like, rate, review, subscribe, follow us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook at Let It Loose Pod. If you have a show idea, if you want to reach out to us in it for any ideas, any reason whatsoever, our email address is letitloosepod@gmail.com. And we want to hear from you what your thoughts on vinyl are. If you have any reissues, if you have a wish list, a holy grail item, or what you enjoy most about the vinyl experience, let's talk a little bit all over social media. Until next time, thank you so much, everybody. We will see you next time.
Hasta luego.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to Let It Loose, a Gloria Este-FAN podcast. Let It Loose was produced by Carlos, Rob, and Wes, edited by Cintiana, and graphics were designed by Laura. Thank you to Gloria for bringing us all together. Subscribe, rate, and share the love, and join us next week for a brand new episode.